So the four of us, five of us, work real well together because we honor each other's gifts. We listen to what each other has to offer. Whereas we also encountered another person this morning that was saying, this is the way it is. And he wasn't willing to come out of his paradigm to consider that communication may be as much touchy-feely and picture as it is numbers. So, in order to communicate effectively with somebody, communication is not about talking primarily. It's about deciding what few words can I say based on what I'm learning about this guy by listening to him talk. Because if I say just a few words that meet his model of the world, then I don't have to do a lot of talking. And I don't have to claim responsibility for what he thinks. One of the things that always frustrates me are those people who say, see it my way, do it my way, hear it my way. Well, Ron wants to talk to us about how that's not possible. Give us examples about the words. Sure. Do you want to proceed? Invite him. Invite him.
Go through this room?
Sure. Just go right out that door right there.
No, they just came with me.
Okay.
That'll be hard. Thanks.
What I want to talk to you about is the gap that exists between the rate at which I speak and say words and the rate in which you're thinking. That as a person that speaks rather rapidly, I talk around 150 words a minute. Some of you may speak 110 words a minute, 125, a lot less than that. Very few of you would actually speak at a faster rate than 150. Well, inside your brain, your subconscious brain is just bombarding your conscious brain with words at the rate of at least 300 words a minute, maybe more, up to 400. Some tests have been done and really, really bright people like Einstein who are probably thinking at around 500 or more words a minute. But the average person's subconscious works at around 350 words a minute. So the question is that I think that we have to understand, if we want to communicate effectively, and being able to understand where other people are coming from, and what's happening to us as we listen, is what happens in that gap between the rate of spoken words and the thought process. That approximately 200 to 300 word gap. Now, what I would like you to do now is do a little exercise. Close your eyes, and I'm going to say some words, and as I say the words, you just let your minds run free and think whatever that you would like about these words. Create whatever picture in your mind that you would like. Yellow. We're doing a little listening, thinking exercise right now, and what we're doing is I'm going to ask you to close your eyes in a minute and create mental pictures inside your head based on the words that I give you. Okay? So we'll close our eyes. And the first word I gave was yellow. Beetle. Tanny Wynette. Ocean. Orange. Clinton. Flower. Okay, you can open your eyes. Now, how many of you did see any pictures at all? All of you did. Of course you did. Let's talk a little bit about some of those words. I think the first word that I mentioned was yellow. When I said yellow, what did you see?
I saw a stripe, almost like it was painted across the screen of some width that was yellow, just starting and swept across the screen.
John, what did you see?
Well, I saw the yellow submarine.
Okay. I knew what other words you meant. And Renee, what did you see?
My first vision was a caution sign, and the second one was a school bus.
I saw a canary, yellow.
Yeah, good. Karen?
The sky was yellow, so almost like a sunset. Yellow, probably, the sky.
When I think of yellow, I normally see bananas and lemons. Because to me, those are real visual examples of yellow. How about beetle?
I saw an insect, brown.
John?
I saw 4 musicians with long hair.
That came up too.
I thought I saw two numbers, the beetle bug first and then bug beetle.
And
I kind of saw like an orange looking bug with black spots.
yeah,
Ladybug, that's what I saw. Ladybug, brown.
Right.
I will often think of a Volkswagen beetle when I hear the word beetle. Tammy, what is it?
Country western singer.
I thought she would fit very well with the yellow submarine. I could get her into that picture.
Right?
I saw musical songs.
Well, I saw her singing and kind of sequel dress in,
Yeah.
it was orange with polka dots with the
Well, I couldn't picture her face, but I knew she must have one of these country western hairdos.
Yeah. See, I think that's what I think of, is I think of big hair.
Not with Tammy Wynette. You don't see her like I see.
And Ocean?
Waves crashing on my shore.
I saw my yellow submarine. No?
Again, I see multiple images when I get keyboards. First thing is waves coming in, seagulls,
Yeah.
people walking.
I saw when you said ocean calm, just blue calm.
I saw waves and an ocean liner then after that.
I normally see people in bathing suits. Especially bikinis.
There you go.
But just to go ahead and kind of wrap up this little exercise, is when you're listening to someone speak and they say a word, it really doesn't matter much what the word is. It's what John was talking about earlier, about what I'm saying, what you think I'm saying, is the vision or the image that you create in your mind is what fills that 200 gap space between what's being said and what's happening inside your head. That you're making value judgments in that. Some people, when hearing the word Tammy Wynette, would have really pleasant thoughts. They would maybe think of a song that she sang. Maybe you'll see her with her ex-husband George Jones. You may hear her singing one of your favorite songs, Stand By Your Man, or D-I-V-O-R-C-E, and have a good thought about that, or a negative thought about that. I mean, that whatever value you place on that thought is up to you. But in the regard that some people will have positive thoughts about that, and some people will have negative thoughts about that, belong to you. And that's how you fill the space. And based on that value that you place on that, really determines how well you listen, and whether you make a decision to continue to listen beyond this point. Now, this week, if I were to come in and I had on an Alabama shirt, I come in and I say Roll Tide, and those kind of things, if you're not an Alabama fan, or your experience is that you have a really bitter image of that, I have now lost my credibility for you to be able to continue to listen. Because what you may be thinking, among 10 million other things, is, if this guy is no more bright than that, how could he possibly say anything of value that would be meaningful to me? No, that's based on value. Because people pay attention to direct proportion to the value of the message. And if you find no value in it, why listen to it? And those are the judgments that you make in the gap.
And you have feelings about those judgments that you make in the gap. For example, when you heard the word ocean, you said calm, peaceful, okay, which are feeling words. And so kinesthetic values to this moment are very, very important. And one of the things that happened to me once is that I was speaking at Mount Eggs. I was a chaplain down there years and years and years ago. And I never will forget, I was talking about what I assumed was, the standard way that I'd always heard about God's love being portrayed as a loving Father. So I went through my speech about God loves us like a father. And when I finished, this 14, 15-year-old boy came up to me and he said, I'm in here for hitting my old man in the head with a baseball bat, and when I get out of here, I'm going to kill him. And he said, don't come in this place talking to me about Daddy's loving you. See? That kind of assumption on my part didn't fit his transderivation about what he was hearing about Father's love at all. So only when I learned to listen to his frame of reference, I can still see this kid and how jarred I was by his reaction to that, and what a point that made with me, that I better not begin to assume that what I'm saying is communicating what I want to be heard.
Absolutely.
So what do you do about it? Well, I think that first of all, you have to ask yourself, what kind of outcome do I want as a result of communicating with you? What do I want? Do I want to be right? Or do I have something specifically that I need? And usually I have to get beyond my ego need to ask, what's the real point of this conversation? And most of the time I get stuck back there at, well, I want to be right. I want you to know that I'm right, see? Because my conditioning is to be right. But what I'm learning later in life is that if I want some satisfaction from an interaction with a retail person based on some experience I've had with them, then I need to begin to ask myself, what is it I'm looking for? Do I just want to go down there and be seen and heard and make her seen and have her remember me? Or do I want to really get a refund or another book or have them order something from you? And you have that happen all the time, don't you? Lots of interaction with people who don't get what they want simply because of the way they approach it. They don't communicate. Think about some other cultural kinds of things that get in the way of our communicating with each other. Can you think of some other things that sort of inhibit that?
The distance that you mentioned, I understand, although I haven't personally experienced it, but the Middle Eastern culture, the Egyptians, when they speak to one another, their faces are inches apart. And when a Westerner and an Egyptian are talking to one another, it turns out to be a backing up by the Westerner and coming on by the Egyptian, while one is trying to maintain the distance that the Western culture is talking back to Westerner, and the Egyptian is trying to get in within the range that if he is that close, he feels comfortable and can begin to build trust. And so the two of them are trying to build trust by arriving at a distance they won't understand what the other's wants.
Have any of you had that experience where you dealt with someone outside of your culture, and because you were trying to deal with them in a different way, you became uncomfortable, or you were aware that there was something wrong there? Have you had an experience like that?
Well, it wasn't a feeling of being uncomfortable, but my parents had this Japanese person come. He was writing a book, and we live in rural Laos County, not too far from Dallas County, and he was writing some, gathering research information on sharecroppers union, And I want to know how that compared to the Japanese culture. And he said, well, we held land similarly in Japan. So, he was gathering information in reference to this. But the point I'm making is, once he would stay with my parents, he stayed with them a couple of weeks, and then he'd go back to Japan, or he was also on sabbatical here and was teaching at one of the universities here. And, but after he established what he thought was a relationship with my family, he could go to Japan and come back. Of course, over in Wisconsin at that time, you did not lock your doors. So whenever he came back, when they knew anything, if the door was open, he'd come in the house, put his luggage in his room, and without knocking, because he felt in his culture it was not necessary for him to knock. If the door was open, he would just come in. And sometimes they said, his name was Wessingy. When they would come home, he would be in the room. Or if they were there, he would say, we just came and he was in the room. Of course, they knew who he was, and he posed no danger or anything. But see, that was a big cultural difference because, we know to knock. Whenever you go, regardless, if it's at your sister's house, you just knock to let them know you're coming in. But that right there, is a big cultural difference.
And see, we had the culture difference here. Because where I was raised, if we went to a neighbor's house, or a relative's house especially, we didn't knock. We would just go in. And when I moved away, like to Detroit, or some other city, that was just unheard of. I didn't understand.
There was obviously a cultural difference in communication that happened in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The Japanese student was shot and killed in Halloween. Better cultural understanding on both of their parts probably could save that young man's life.
And I can understand the difference in terms of what he, could not understand, because here again, had we been, just afraid, or my parents had been afraid that they were going to be attacked or whatever, then had he gone in, then that could have been a fatality. But because of the fact, they kind of lived a laid-back life and things weren't as bad at the time, wasn't that many years ago, but they left the door open, and when they do anything, he'd be there just getting his stuff, putting it away,
See, and you have to be aware, like, it's dangerous not to know those kinds
That's
of
right.
things. And think about how, whether you're rural or urban, makes a big difference. One of the things that happened to me when I first went to Baltimore was, I thought those people were really rude because you couldn't get a word in edgeways. They talked fast, they pushed on each other, they got in each other's faces, they said all kinds of words we didn't say down south. And pretty soon I began to see, well, hey, everybody's like that up here. These are a bunch of really rude people for the first, 6 or 8 months I was there. But what I found is that they're no different than Detroit or Atlanta or Birmingham. The more urbanized the situation comes, the faster the pace of life, the more you have to push to get your word heard. That's the way you communicate with each other. And that's a cultural difference. One of the things that happened to me, a Jewish friend of mine said, the people in this interfaith center don't trust you. Well, I was the chairman of everything, and I got elected. And he said, but you don't understand. You do not fit our model of the culture. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, you're too laid back and too nice, and we don't trust that. If you want to be heard in this culture, you've got to speak up and say what you want and do it forcefully enough. And see, the way they talk to each other, I found super offensive. They would say, just shut up. I'm talking now, you just be quiet. And the other person would say, well, you talk long enough, I'm going to talk now. And I was going, oh man, I want to get out of here, because of my social condition. But learning that I'm not responsible for the way you model the world, so I don't have to argue with you about whether it's right or wrong or not, is basic communication. If I am dealing with someone outside of my culture, I need to have learned that it's okay for me to back up and watch what this person thinks right without making judgments. I noticed we have this black-white thing in our culture. I saw Oprah Winfrey the other day. There's a fellow there who had on this dashiki and a little round hat, and he was making some very, very good points. But nobody was listening to him because in this audience, which was 90% white, he looked super aggressive. He was going, real intense, real aggressive, and these people were saying, just slow down, just wait a minute. Well, this young man, to the other people there, these other black people who were on the stage, he wasn't aggressive at all. He was communicating with them out of a culture that met their needs and fit their model of the world. So, in order to, was a minister in a church in downtown Washington, D.C. for years. Right on the edge of Washington district. So when I was there, I had two congregations. I had a white congregation and a black congregation. And they were in the same building at the same time, but they didn't hear me the same, and they didn't react the same way to the same sorts of things that I was doing as the minister. There were two different congregations. And the thing that I learned about that was, and I never will forget, is that this very, very sharp black lady who taught at Howard University said to me, John, you really have two churches. And we're not very good at talking to each other simply because we've never done it before. We're trying a new experience because we're having to learn two different cultures. See? And that never occurred to me. I thought, you just go up there and you get together and it's just real simple, but it's not. We don't put the same value based on our conditioning on what's going on. Like this morning, this fellow did not hear a word we were saying to us. Not a word. He left here without hearing what we were trying to communicate with him, simply because his value system said, my way is the way.
Should have been here for that when it'd be a little bit more meaningful to you, but he was uncomfortable. He told me at the end of the session, he says, this is one of the most uncomfortable experiences you've had. And what was really happening, you would think, is a presentation was being given by one person, received by some others, without too many suggestions or corrections or even interruptions. But by the time he left, he was feeling very uncomfortable. And in part, I think, is because although you and I are just using a few words now, the way I am talking to you now makes you feel however you feel. And if I'm doing nothing but using body language while you're making the presentation, and everybody else might be doing the same thing to them, and beginning to lean towards somebody else who's next to them, so that when you're not looking, I can say a word, I'm tuning you completely out. And so without our really verbally communicating with this dog, and our being uncomfortable, by the way, some things are happening, but he was saying, he felt very uncomfortable.
Interesting. And in terms of communication, the really important point here is that my uncomfortableness gets expressed in the audience. That when I'm uncomfortable, the chances are that that's going to be projected out there, and I can sit out there and watch what's going on, and it may not be that these people are rejecting me, but my discomfort level is so high, I'm putting that on them, and they're beginning to act it out. They're projecting my discomfort. As a therapist, one of the things I learned was that when people started yawning, or I started yawning, it may be that they were the ones that felt like they weren't interested. And that this fellow set us up because of his discomfort. We all reacted the same way because he brought it in here. We have to be aware of that.
We need to take a 10-minute break right now. What I would like you to think about during the 10-minute break is as soon as we come back, we'd like to establish at least one specific goal that you would like to learn in this 2-hour session that we can zero in on in the last portion that you can use immediately on the job or in a personal relationship. So we're going to break down for 10 minutes, and as soon as we come back, we will get right into what specific goal we have.
Listen, I'd like for you to experience what Renee experienced, so I want Gary to greet you in the way that we've greeted Renee, okay? Philonda.
Is there any way you can turn around with the camera to do that?
You can speak back.
Okay, so your name is Gary. So,
Okay, two more.
Okay.
Hi, good morning.
Okay. Now, what am I supposed to do?
Do the same thing.
Say, okay. Hi, Gary. How are you today?
Are they from Russia? One more time.
I'm glad my I am an independent insurance broker part-time, so I did not have a health license because at the time when I began to write insurance, they would not allow me to take the health exam because I wasn't representing the health company. So just recently, I decided to take the health exam, but I didn't study, okay?
We're gonna talk about insanity, right?
Okay, so I didn't study the first time. And then so there's no point in me praying and asking God to help me pass because, you know, He can't help you do something you didn't do yourself. So the first time I went, I didn't pass. And so I did the second time. I studied more the first time than I did the second time. So I said, no, I'm really insane now. Anyway, I tried to get out of taking it, but I had to go through all this long process. And I'd rather be insane, go and take it again. So I'd like to know, though, let y'all know that I did pass the exam, even though I was insane. I got home last night, opened the mail, and said, now why did they send this exam results in the middle of the week so I can get upset?
One thing you do, you always can't put yourself in a negative position.
Right.
But thank you very much for today, and we will, hopefully you will find some person that you have had difficulty communicating with and try to see inside of their model of the world. Create some into-me-see. Thank you. The other thing I would like to say to you is that we're going to talk about time management next, and maybe you would like to hang around for that, and we'd be glad for you to be a part of that. If you would like to purchase tickets for that, they're available here today. And we will be doing a further seminars in the next few days, months, on basically layering on to what we've learned today about how to be more effective in talking to each other and hearing each other and professional as we do whatever our chosen profession is. Thank you.
And something will help us to be more effective. We fill out your evaluation sheets. We'll get an honest critique about how we communicate our program.
That's good. You got that evaluation. I would like for you to meet Charlotte Eiseldike.
Sorry, I missed the session. I should have gotten here a little early.
You're on.
I'm not limited. I can stay. You go right ahead with that if you want to.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Praise
Be my guest.
Today's, we'd like to have you to meet the president of Positive Motivational Seminars. He has conducted training seminars and workshops throughout the United States and abroad in the areas of organization, goal setting, communication, team building, stress management, and professional self-development. No matter if you're in sales, creative, or production, we will face these issues on a daily basis. And would you please help me welcome Mr. Arthur Andrews.
Thank you for that kind and gracious introduction, and good afternoon to everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. What I'm going to share with you very briefly is what I refer to as life-changing principles. Someone said that life makes one demand on every living organism, namely that it must come to terms with the situation it confronts, realizing there are two ways to meet a situation. Sometimes you can change the situation, other times you must change yourself. And change sometimes is a process of disruption and renewal. Sometimes we don't like change because it's going to make us very uncomfortable. We're going to have to push ourselves. And one of the things that I do is push people beyond their level of mediocrity. I want you to reach out and be the best that you possibly can be, whatever that is. But one thing we must realize, we're going to have to deal with fear. And fear is simply the acronym false, evidence appearing real. A threat is not reality until you act upon it. It's all in your mind. Something I want to share with you that reminds me of a person that dealt with fear in a very unusual way. His name was Jimmy. His mother called him about 7 o'clock in the morning. She says, "Jimmy, get up. It's time to go to school." There was no sound. The second time, she called a little bit louder. "Jimmy, get up. It's time to go to school." No sound. She went and knocked on the door. "Jimmy, get up. It's time to go to school." Well, she says, "Wait a minute. Let me open this door and get in." She shook it. She says, "Get up and go to school." He says, "I don't want to go to school. There's 1,600 kids at that school that don't like me." Mother, as a matter of fact, she says, "No. Don't you stand before you get yourself ready for school." He says, "No, Mother." He began to start crying. He says, "Mother, there are teachers there that don't like me. Just the other day, they were in the hallway pointing their finger at me. Me! Mother, why in the world would you want me to go to school and suffer all of this torture, verbal abuse? She says, get yourself together. I'll give you 2 reasons. Number 1, you're 40 years old. Number 2, you're the principal. And we all feel like Jimmy, you know. It's time to go to work. I don't want to go to work. And it's humorous. But isn't it sad to know that there are many people on this planet who go to their jobs each day just doing time? Not really getting any kind of personal fulfillment. And one thing that we must do, we must recognize, is that we don't have unlimited time on this planet. Your biological clock is ticking. For some, it's gonging. Gong, gong. It's time to do something, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. It's only what we do today that's going to count. We can't do it yesterday. Yesterday's a canceled check. Tomorrow's a promissory note. We've got to work on ourselves. And I want to share something real quick with you. 7 principles to success. And the first principle I'm going to share with you, and I think that it will empower you. And I'm not going to tell you anything that you haven't heard already, but hopefully that I'll say something that might begin to stir a desire. Number 1, in order for us to make it in this life, we're going to need peace of mind. Very important. Most people are searching for peace. Some of you all would buy peace if I could just buy peace. I'd buy it. Some people are in very toxic relationships. There was an account of a young lady who was beaten by her husband on a regular basis. And they ask her, says, why do you stay in this toxic relationship? She says, I don't know what I would do out there. But yet she's not at peace. One of the first things that go in terms of your personality, in terms of peace of mind, is when you are not true to your convictions, when you go against your convictions. You do things that you don't really believe in. Or sometimes when you don't stand up within yourself and say, listen, I don't care how hard it is, I'm going to do this. I don't care how many people don't like it, I'm going to do it. And something that we must understand, people walk up to you sometimes and say, you know, I don't understand you, but fire back at them and say, to be great is to be misunderstood. People are not always going to understand your vision because it's not their vision, it's your vision. And if you don't want people to rain on your parade, don't let them know what street it's coming down. Number 2, you're going to need health and energy. You know, a lot of people talk about health. They say I want to be healthy, but they don't want to give up cigarettes. A lot of people talk about health, but they won't want to get out and really begin to work on themselves, to improve themselves. Work on yourself. You know, when I wake up in the morning, one of the most healthy things is I do, I speak to myself. I look in the mirror. See, it's when you answer yourself, that's the problem. You know, when you talk to yourself, just don't answer yourself. Good morning, how are you, and you, and you know, that's really, people go, whoa. But I look in the mirror and I say, the mark of greatness is upon you, Arthur L. Andrews. And you must not be limited by the short-sighted belief of others. You can because you think you can. You can because God says you can. You're looking good, you're feeling good, you're smelling good, you masterpiece of creation. Have a wonderful day. That's what you say to yourself. And if you don't like jogging, try walking. Releases the toxins. Don't go out and look at the weeds, look at the roses. Enjoy life. Breathe. Relax. One of the things that are killing most people is stress. When's the last time you took a good bath? That's the Calgon bath. Just to relax yourself. So that's very important, and that can also have an adverse effect on our personal growth, the things we want to do. The third thing that we need to understand is that with health and energy, we're going to need loving relationships. Now, I guarantee you that your domestic situation will eventually affect your occupation. How many of you agree with me? How many of you are sick and tired of being sick and tired? I ask people that wherever they go, it never fails. Put their hands up. Loving relationships all has a lot to do with long-term relationships. Most of us lack social intelligence. I was listening to a trainer not too long ago. As a matter of fact, during a session just a day ago. And Ron was talking about communication. Because you know, one thing God gave us was 2 ears and 1 mouth. Boy, that's a sure sign. I learned some things about intimacy, how people fear intimacy, afraid to open up. But I guarantee you that if you could just sit down and listen. Now, one thing people don't want to hear is your problems. Over and over again. Who wants to hear that racket over and over and over again? Now, it's all right to share, but I'm quite sure you don't want to hear my problems. I really shouldn't say, well, don't say it. How you doing? You don't know. Don't want to know. You know. But basically, 80% of the people really don't want to hear your complaints. You know, it's really rough, body. Can't get no speaking engagements. Body doesn't want to listen to that. Let's change the word problem to challenge. We have a challenge, body. You know, we've got to get out of here and make something the fastest way to get back on your feet. A friend of mine says, I missed 2 car payments. So we got to do some things. We got to go to work. You know, we got to go to work. And you know, someone says 80% of the people don't want to hear your problems and your complaints. Because you know what's happening? We have what we call the national anthem. It's called whining now. 80% don't want to hear it. 20% glad it's happening to you. Number 4. The next thing that we will need is financial freedom. Financial freedom. Having enough money that you don't have to worry about it. Well, some people try to get very religious. Well, the love of money is the root of all evil. The lack of it is too. You know, I mean, hey, listen, if you don't think money's important, give me some of yours. What you got, you know? And then you got to look at it. You know, money's important. I think it's Rita Davenport says she puts it right up there with oxygen. So it's important. 80% of people are preoccupied with money worries. We've got to begin to think about that. I know that I won't retire. I'll speak until I drop. But nevertheless, we need to begin to start thinking about securing a financial future for ourselves, doing something that can provide a strong economic base. Are you in agreement with that? Okay, number 5. Worthy goals and ideals. What do you really want? Yeah, listen, are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for somebody else? If you do it for the money, it won't last. If you do it for your family, it won't last. Speaking for me was something my family said, you're crazy. What's wrong with you? Don't you know they're hiring down at McDonald's? Get a real job. Get a real job.
Now, Aunt Carolyn's for you.
That's right. Keep acting like that, you look like Uncle Milton. You see where he's at now. But worthy goals and ideals, something that is important to you. Don't go to your grave with your music still in there. Don't have us go and look at your tombstone and it says, here lies Ron, not used up. You know, we're going to be deprived if you do not come and give us what you were blessed with. The whole universe will be deprived because you didn't share it with us. It's worth it. Number 6, self-knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to begin to be honest with ourselves. A lot of us are working on our weaknesses. Don't work on your weaknesses, soar with your strengths. You don't progress doing something that you hate. I bet you have something that's inside of you that you've been wanting to share with so many people. I wanted to sing. My family told me for years, you can't sing. I used to go to family reunions and I wanted to sing. They said, please just say a poem. But at 33, I accepted a challenge. Went out and sung the national anthem at a local coliseum in Huntsville, Alabama, Von Braun Civic Center. Went there and sang. And I succeeded. I made it. I succeeded against the odds. And I mean, when I hit that, and the home, sounds kind of good, doesn't it? You know, that's right. Listen, you have to pay for that other part. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But be honest with yourself. To be or not to be is not the answer. To be or not to be is the question. Okay? And finally, number 7, personal fulfillment. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And every time that a friend of mine would call me, he listened to this tape and he heard this word higher. And every time that I would complain and whine, he says, higher? I said, but you know, higher, Arthur. And every time he would say it, I came like I was becoming elevated. But you don't understand. You don't understand. I'm not making it higher. Higher. And it really had an effect on me. Watch the energy that you're around. Be careful of the people that you associate. Birds of a feather do flock together. Stay away from people. Don't ever share your goals, your aspirations, or dreams with people that will give you a negative reaction. Ladies and gentlemen, follow your dream. Take one step at a time. Don't settle for less. Continue to climb. Follow your dream. If you stumble, don't stop and lose sight of your goal. For only on the top can you see the whole view. Can you see what you've done? Can you see what you can do? Can you then have a vision to seek something new? Hold on and follow your dream. The mark of greatness is upon you. And you must not be limited by the short-sighted belief of others. You can because you think you can. You can because God says you can. You're looking good, you're feeling good, you're smelling good. Go for it. God bless you.
That approximately 75% of your daily decisions are based on color alone. The color company, color's combination of art and science. The color company can teach you the winning combination. Charlotte Eiseldike, founder of the color company, is a certified color design specialist providing business and personal consultation, custom design training and seminars exclusive to this region. And she's been a color design consultant for over 20 years, and we were both at Huntsville Country Club today, where we had the future First Lady, according to what we heard today, Mrs. Lucy Blunt, Mrs. Winton Blunt Jr. And so I asked her, she was going to come over and speak with us sometime, so she's going to give us 8 minutes or so of what she does in color. And so please help me welcome Charlotte Eiseldike.
To be here, I think. Yes, Bonnie is very charming, and she did catch me on a day when I was doing a lot of running around. But I will share with you some extemporaneous information about color and how I perceive it and what it can do for your life, your business. As Bonnie said, 75% of the decisions that you made today and will continue to make are based on color alone. It's a powerful tool. When you shopped for your last car, if it had every feature that you ever wanted, and it was your dream car, and you got that, but in order to get the color you wanted, you were going to have to wait, and you really preferred not to have to wait 3 months, so you took one of the cars that was available with all of the features. And someone compliments you on the car. What is the very first comment you're going to make? It's a great car, but it's not my car. When you stop by the supermarket tonight to buy a steak or some chopped meat, what is going to be the final deciding factor on whether or not you purchase the package? You'll check the price, you'll look at the cut, you'll check the thickness, you'll see if there's much fat on it. But if it's not, what?
Red.
Red?
Good red.
Even if the package next to it is a better package of meat, if it's less red, because it has less food coloring in it, you will buy the one that's the right color. So it is really a powerful tool. Alluding to all of these wonderful comments earlier, what I deal with is a color harmony system. It's known as Color Key. And it deals with, it's an international color system that's scientifically validated, and it is 100% accurate for anything man